They said I was unfit. But the secret they hid for 70 years was their undoing. They said I was unfit, unprepared, irresponsible, not good enough to raise a child, not good enough to carry the family name, not good enough to be trusted with anything important. But they never imagined that the truth they buried, a truth almost 70 years old, would rise to the surface and dismantle everything they built. I grew up thinking my family was strict, maybe overprotective. I never imagined they were hiding something that would tear them apart and pull me into the center of a story older than my parents themselves. This is how I learned the truth they tried to erase. I was 17 when the word was first thrown at me. It wasn't a whisper. It wasn't a caution. It was a verdict. You're unfit, Maya. My grandmother didn't blink when she said it. She folded the word into the same flat tone she used when commenting on weather or the time of day. To her it was simply true. The reason? Because I asked a question. Just one. Why don't we have any photos of our family before 1960? My grandmother froze. Not dramatically, just the kind of stillness that tells you the air has shifted. Then she turned, smoothed the front of her blouse and said, "Don't dig into things that aren't yours to carry." But the more they told me not to look, the more I started seeing the gaps. Our family tree started abruptly. Stories never went beyond my great-grandparents. Every older relative dodged questions like they were landmines. No. I was unfit. For asking. My mother didn't call me unfit. She didn't say anything. But when I asked her again, privately, she gave me a look I'd never seen before. Not anger. Not shame. Not fear exactly. It was grief. "Maya," she whispered, "please stop asking. Why? What could be so bad?" She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it. Tears moved into her eyes and she looked away. "It's not my story to tell," she whispered. And that was the first sign that the truth wasn't just hidden. It was locked. Not for protection. Not for tradition. But because it had the power to destroy everything. The box wasn't supposed to exist. At least not according to my grandmother, who insisted every family record had been lost in a fire. But then one night, at 2:17 a.m., someone slipped a small flat cardboard box outside my bedroom door. No sound. No footsteps. Just the box. Inside, wrapped in a thin cloth, were a single black and white photograph, a hospital wristband, and a folded paper so fragile it felt like it could crumble in my hands. The photograph showed a woman, younger than my grandmother, holding a baby. Her expression was sharp, watchful, almost defensive. The wristband read, "Baby A 1953. St. Marlowe's Home for Mothers." And the paper? It was a dismantled birth certificate. My birth certificate. Except, the mother's name wasn't my mom's. And the father's name wasn't listed at all. The next morning, before the sun even touched the curtains, I took a bus across town to St. Marlowe's. It wasn't a hospital anymore. Just an old stone building with boarded windows and ivy climbing over its walls. The sign out front had peeled letters, but I could still make out the words. Home for Unwed Mothers, E 1909. My heart hammered. This wasn't just a building. This was a place where secrets were curated like artifacts. Where women were sent to disappear until they could return clean, respectable, restored. It was the first time I realized what unfit really meant. A woman, maybe in her late 60s, was sweeping the walkway. "You here for the archives?" she asked without looking up. My breath caught. "There archives? Old habits die hard," she said. "Even after the place shut down 40 years ago." I showed her the photograph. She stopped sweeping. "Oh," she said softly. "Her. Do you know her?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "That woman. She wasn't supposed to leave here with her child. A chill rolled down my spine. But someone helped her. Someone high up. Someone who erased every trace. She looked straight at me then. "You're the child, aren't you?" The caretaker led me inside the building. The air smelled like dust and lemon cleaner. Most rooms were empty, but down in the basement, behind an old supply closet, she pulled out a rusted metal cabinet. "You didn't get this from me," she whispered. He handed me a file. On the cover, patient number 442, Evelyn Marlowe. Marlowe. The same name as the building. Inside were records, frail papers, faded ink, telling the story of a woman forced into hiding after becoming pregnant, and a scandal involving a man from a powerful family who denied everything. The caretaker lowered her voice. The Marlowe family didn't want the child to exist. It would have ruined them. So they declared the mother unfit and planned to take the baby. But she ran. Not alone, the caretaker said. She had help from someone inside the family. Who? She met my eyes. Your grandmother. Everything tilted. My grandmother, the woman who called me unfit, once risked everything to save a child and expose a lie? But then why did she treat me like a mistake? Why did she hide every trace of who I really was? The caretaker gave me the last page of the file, a note handwritten in pencil. "This baby will grow up free, no matter what lies the family tells." It was signed, Marlowe, my grandmother's maiden name. When I got home, I found my grandmother sitting at the kitchen table. The box from my room sat in front of her. "You opened it," she said quietly. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I demanded. "Why hide who I am?" She closed her eyes and her voice trembled. "Because I failed." "What do you mean?" "I saved that baby," she whispered. "I saved your mother. But I couldn't save myself from the consequences." "Consequences from who?" "The Marlowes," she said. "Our own family. They destroyed everything to bury what happened. And when you started asking questions, they told me to control you." "Control me how?" Her voice cracked. "By telling you that you were unfit. That you had no right to dig. That you were too young, too emotional, too curious." She wiped her eyes. "I became the very thing I once fought against." My grandmother handed me a final envelope, sealed, heavy. Inside was a signed confession from the Marlowe patriarch, dated 1953. A written admission that Evelyn Marlowe, a distant cousin, had been forced into the home for unwed mothers, because he was the father of the child. My grandmother whispered. He was a public figure. A man who built his reputation on family values. If the truth came out, everything would crumble. So they hid it? For 70 years, she said. But now, you found it. The envelope also contained something else. A letter from Evelyn Marlowe, addressed to my daughter and her daughter. My heart thudded as I opened it. The handwriting was shaky but warm. "Maya, if you're reading this, it means the truth survived longer than the lie. They said girls like me were unfit. They said children like you didn't deserve a future. They were wrong. You come from women who fought. Women who protected. Women who carried the truth even when it was dangerous. You are not unfit. You are not unwanted. You are the ending to a story they tried to erase. And the beginning of one they can never bury again. Evelyn." I folded the letter against my chest. Felt like a heartbeat. We didn't go to the press. We didn't expose the Marlowe family publicly. We didn't need to. All it took was one letter, my grandmother's resignation from the family trust, and the entire structure they built began to unravel. The truth didn't destroy them overnight, but it weakened the roots of their legacy piece by piece. And for the first time in 70 years, they couldn't bury it again. Because I knew. Because we knew. Because someone finally refused to sit silently under the word unfit. My grandmother cried when she saw me holding Evelyn's letter. Not from shame. From relief. You broke the cycle, she whispered. You did what I couldn't. I squeezed her hand. No, I said softly. You started it. I just finished it. She smiled through trembling lips. And you did it well. They told me I was unfit. But all along, it wasn't me they were afraid of. It was the truth. A truth they buried for 70 years. A truth my grandmother risked everything to protect. A truth my mother carried in silence. And a truth that finally reached me. Not to hurt me, but to set me free. But sometimes, the legacy you inherit isn't the one they meant for you. It's the one you uncover yourself.